Welcome to the Well Said Podcast, the podcast for inspiring as well as aspiring authors and speakers. Now, here's your host, dynamic author and speaker, Cedric L. Threets.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome once again to the Well Said Podcast. You know what I call you, great people. Welcome, great people. And you know why I call you great? Because somebody's got to be great today, and that somebody might as well be you. Welcome once again to the Well Said Podcast, the podcast for inspiring as well as aspiring authors and speakers. Today, I have another exciting guest that I know you're going to enjoy. This young lady has written several books that will inspire you. But before we get to the interview, you know what you got to do. You got to hit that like button. You got to hit the subscribe, the notification. You got to share, upload, download, and do all of that good stuff. But it's going to be great. I want to introduce my guest. Her name is Miss Chandra Sparks Splond. She is an editor, speaker, and award-winning journalist, author, and blogger. She is the owner of West End Publishing, LLC, and was the consulting editor for Albuquerque Romance at Kensington Publishing. She has also edited for HarperCollins, Christian, Random House, Moody Publishers, Kimani Press, and Hyperion, as well as several New York Times, USA Today, and Essence best-selling authors. She was a copy editor for Good Housekeeping, Newsday, and The Morning Call, and has consulted with the Birmingham Times and written for Black and Married with Kids, Brides Noir, Wedding Pages, and Romantic Times. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce you to my dear friend, the very accomplished and beautiful, talented Miss Chandra Sparks Splond. How you doing, Miss Chandra?
I'm good. It's actually pronounced Chandra.
See, I'm messing up already, y'all. I've been knowing her this long, and I'm still messing up her name. That's
It's,
just what
it's
I
all
do.
good. It's good. Thank you so much for having me this evening. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks for agreeing to come on. So you have
Absolutely.
a plethora of books, and I just read all of these accolades, and I'm proud of myself for being able to pronounce brides moi because I took 3 years of French in high school, so I do remember that word. It's spelled Noir, y'all. So most people said Nor, but it's moi.
Yes, yes.
So I
So
got that right, even if I didn't get the Chandra right.
it's okay. It's all good.
Yeah. What tell us about this book that we're going to be talking about today?
All right. Well, Secret Weapon is actually my 18th release.
Wow.
I write mainly for teens and tweens, and I always wanted to do a book for younger boys, so for middle grade boys.
Hmm.
So in the book, there's a cover. I don't know if you
All
can see
right.
it, but in the book, the main character is named Kingston Evan Marshall, and he goes by King. Um, and he's what's been going on is he's been bullied at school last school year. So his mom has decided to move him to a new school.
Hmm.
So he is going through changing schools, trying to figure out where he fits in, how this new school is going to be an impact and getting over the impact of being bullied.
Yeah.
He also loves basketball, and he has spent the entire summer trying to perfect his basketball playing skills. So he's had a lot going on, and of course, as I like to do, there's always a little secret and a couple of twists thrown in. So
Hmm.
that's Kingston in a nutshell.
Yeah, I like that, and I was reading some of it, and I like the fact that you are approaching kids where they are, because so
Yeah.
many kids go through exactly what he's going. They're being bullied in school. Their parents may decide to move to another neighborhood, or if they don't move to another neighborhood, at least move them to another school. And
Right.
being the new kid in school is a challenge. I mean, no matter what age you're at, you could be 5 years old or 15 years old. Being the new kid is quite a challenge. Wouldn't you agree?
I do. I absolutely do agree. And we're saying kids, but that happens with adults too.
Yeah.
Starting a new job, moving to a
Mm-hmm.
new city,
Mm-hmm.
anywhere. It can always be hard.
Yeah.
Um, as adults, hopefully we have enough words and experience to kind of understand our emotions and what we're dealing with. But
Mm-hmm.
with kids, that can be a challenge.
Yeah.
They're just like adults are. They're living life for the first time and they may not understand it all or know, necessarily how to reach out and make friends or how to just grasp what has happened. You
Right.
know, what I wanted to do in telling this story is to show bullying from a different perspective.
Okay.
The after effects of it. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of times we deal with what the bully has done, but you never see the impact that it has on the person who's had to deal with it. So
Mm.
I thought it was important to show that side.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just heard a story here recently, and these stories have been happening all over the country, been all over the news, where another teen has actually committed suicide as a
Yeah.
result from being bullied in school. So
Yes.
it's a serious problem, and the way you address it is so unique and so great in this book, and telling the other side of it and how it affects people. I think it's really going to bless a lot of people by doing it that way. So what is your, I would say, what is your goal with the book? You mentioned seeing it from the other side. Along with that, what else would you like people to take away from reading this book?
I think one of the biggest things is to show that, um, to be kind.
Mm,
That's very simple. And treat people the way you want to be treated.
yeah, yeah.
Those are huge lessons,
Hmm.
again, that maybe not even adults have gotten. But I always like to include those kind of lessons in my books because even if you're telling a child, oh, be kind, treat people the way you want to be treated,
Right.
sometimes they'll blow you off, but it's more, a lot of times more impactful if it comes from a kid their age.
Hmm.
So that's why I like including those kind of lessons and stories.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like the way in the book, not only making it relatable from the story's point of view, but even with some of the names of the places that you use, I could relate to those places because I lived in some of those places, and the way
Yes.
you put those in the story and twisted them in there, I thought that was so cool the way you did that. And I'm pretty sure people who are from those areas, they can appreciate that as well. What do you think?
Absolutely, and I intentionally do that. A lot of times I'll make up like school names or
Hmm.
whatever, but I
Yeah.
always drop some actual places in there. You may run to the Walmart on Lakeshore or,
Yeah.
different stuff like that. I think it helps add to the realness of the story,
Hmm.
um, to see those things.
Yeah. Yeah, what I like to do is, because people, they struggle with what to name this and what to name that, even when it comes to characters. And what
Yeah.
I'll do is I might take a street name and put it in there, or I may take two of my friends' names and I will use one friend's first name and the other friend's last name to make up a
Yes.
name. And in a book I just finished writing, I used a name of a school. I called it West Valley Elementary
Hmm.
School, which I was combining West End with Jones Valley.
Right.
So, so that's how you could do it. All you other authors out there who are stuck on how to name places or how to come up with character names, that's an inside secret that you could use right there.
Absolutely. And I do the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, in a lot of my books, you'll have a school that appears, and just based on the description, you'll know, oh, this is this school.
Yeah.
So I purposely do those things.
Hmm.
Um, Again, I just think it adds to the makes it real, and it adds to the fun too when you're going through and you're like, hey, like this sounds really familiar.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So now tell the people you mentioned 18 books. I think that is a major accomplishment. Tell the people, how did you get started in all of this? How or why did you get started? Tell the people about the beginning.
okay, well, I wanted to write books since I was 14 years old.
Okay.
So, I didn't know back then how I was going to do it. It was just a dream I had. I've loved reading my
Hmm.
entire life.
Yeah.
And honestly, I didn't realize it's kind of crazy to say this now, but I didn't realize that Black people could write books. Because all the ones I had read, I was reading a lot of Judy Blume and Francine Pascal
Hmm.
and authors like that.
Yeah.
So I was in the library here in Birmingham one day and was looking at the bookshelf, and I saw, was looking at the spines of the book trying to figure out what I was going to check out. And I saw the name J. California Cooper, and I'm like, oh, wow, like that's a really cool name.
Hmm.
Pulled the book off the shelf, looked at the back, and it was a picture of a Black author. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like there's a Black person who actually wrote a book. So I was so excited when I saw that, and it was just the spark I needed to know that my dream could come true. So as I got ready to go off to college, I'd already made this decision that I wanted to write books.
Mm.
My mom asked me what I wanted to do with my life, and when I told her that I wanted to write books, she's like,
Uh-huh.
authors don't make any money. You need to find a career to fall back on. So I decided to major in journalism because that was the closest I could get to actually writing books.
Hmm.
But I found that I didn't like journalism because the writing was too structured.
Hmm.
And then my senior year of college, I actually ended up taking a class in copy editing.
Okay.
I didn't realize it at the time that there was a name for what I had been doing all my life, which was correcting, people,
Hmm.
correcting errors and stories. If I saw a typo, it's like my eyes would zone into it.
Yeah.
So when I took that class, I absolutely fell in love with it, and I decided that's the career path that I wanted to go on.
Hmm.
So I ended up everywhere I went while I was in college, I would tell people, "Oh, I want to be a copy editor." And as God would have it, because it was absolutely Him, I ended up going to a job fair in New Orleans.
Hmm.
And while I was there, one of my mentors mentioned that I wanted to major, that I was, interested in copy editing. And so someone who worked at a paper in New York was like, "Oh, we have this program where we're training the next generation of copy editors. Would you like to apply for it?" And I'm like, I'm not going to New York. Like, are you kidding me? So I said yes, but that's absolutely not where my head was. Well, when
Hmm.
I got back from school, from the job fair, the guy just kept hounding me. He kept reaching out, telling me to take the test and apply for this job opportunity.
Hmm.
So I finally just did it to stop him from calling me.
Hmm.
Ended up getting the job. So I actually moved to New York 2 weeks after I graduated from college.
Wow.
And I was part of this minority editorial training program. It
Hmm.
was a 2-year program. So the first year I worked in New York. The second year I actually moved to Pennsylvania.
Hmm.
And I worked in as an editor for 2 different newspapers. And
Hmm.
while I was there, it occurred to me that I still wanted to be able to write books. And at that time, it was becoming like Black books were really becoming a thing. Like there was, romance lines and all this stuff happening.
Hmm.
So I realized that I needed experience editing longer pieces if I wanted to one day get connected to book editing.
Hmm.
So I decided to apply for jobs at magazines, and I ended up getting offered a job at Good Housekeeping magazine. So I moved back to New York, and that name Again, one of those God things. It opened doors and it allowed me to start doing freelance book editing.
Yeah.
And I've actually been doing freelance book editing since about 1997.
Hmm.
It's something I still continue to do. But as far as the writing my books are concerned,
Hmm.
um, around 2004, after I had my daughter, it occurred to me that my dream of writing books hadn't come true. And I wanted to be the type of parent who, rather than telling her she could make her dreams come true, I wanted to be able to show her.
Yeah.
So I challenged myself to write a book before she turned a year old.
Mm.
I finished my first manuscript a month after her first birthday. Once
Wow.
I did that, I challenged myself to land a book deal before she turned two.
Hmm.
And I received the offer for my first book, Spin It Like That, 2 months after her second birthday.
Mm.
And I have been blessed to publish books ever since.
Okay. Wow. That is so awesome. From the streets of Birmingham, Alabama,
Yes,
all the way to the Big Apple.
yes,
Can
yes.
anything good come out of Birmingham? See,
Amen. Amen.
listen to that, people. That's she is living proof that it doesn't matter where you're from, who you are. If you have a dream, you have a goal, I say go for it. She did not
Absolutely.
let any obstacles stop her. She went out there and she went for it, and she's living proof that it can be done. Again,
Yes.
that's why this is the podcast for inspiring as well as aspiring authors and speakers, because somebody out there, they may be aspiring to be an author, but they don't think they can do it.
Yeah.
Well, she's living proof that it can be done. Now, you mentioned going to New York and Pennsylvania and all of these places. Is that where you built your relationships with all of these places I mentioned in your bio, like HarperCollins and Hyperion and all of those?
It's where I started building the relationships. Absolutely.
Hmm.
I worked as at Kensington Publishing as the consulting editor for BET Books Arabesque, which
Okay.
some people may remember back in the day was a Black romance imprint.
Hmm.
So I was consulting for that. So I was responsible for acquiring about 60 books a year.
Hmm.
Um, and that allowed me, of course, to make a lot of connections.
Yeah.
And then, from there, I was able to continue building what I had grown. I was able to connect with different authors, because I guess my thought process always was just like you have people reading books
Hmm.
or writing books, you have people, you're going to need editors for them. So
Right.
I would just reach out to people,
Hmm.
who I knew were writing books or had published a book. And hey, if you're looking for an editor, or if you know someone who's looking for an editor, can you please consider referring me?
Yeah.
And one of the first times I did that was I reached out to Elian Harris,
Hmm.
who he was awesome back in the day. He was making a name for himself. And I honestly just expected for him was hoping that he would pass my name along to others
Hmm.
because I figured people would ask him.
Yeah.
He actually was like, "Oh, I have a project you can work on right now." And I'm
Mm.
like, "What?" Like, oh my goodness. So I worked with him for a few years on, a few of his books
Yeah.
just by reaching out.
Hmm.
So that's another lesson. You never know what'll happen. All people can do is say no or not respond, which I
Yeah.
mean, that's okay, but you may just get a yes.
That's
So,
my that's my theory. There are only one of two things people can tell me, and neither one will hurt my feelings.
right.
That's yes or no.
Yes.
If you say no, no problem. I
Right.
didn't have your business in the first place, so I
Right.
haven't lost anything. But if you say yes, look how much I've gained simply by asking.
Yes.
A
Absolutely.
closed mouth doesn't get fed.
At all. At
So
all.
so and again, that's a testament to your having confidence in yourself and believing in yourself and what you are doing, and just going out there and doing it. Now,
Yeah.
when it comes to the editing, this is always my problem. Like you mentioned, you can see stuff right away. I could see something somebody else writes right away. I could see an error. But when it comes to my own writing, I'll let other people read it and they'll show me an error that I never even knew was there. because it's my own stuff. So it's always best, people, to let somebody else's eyes see your work. That's why you need
Absolutely.
editors to do that. And that's great. What do you say to people who may be thinking about going on this journey of maybe becoming a journalist or an author or anything like that? What do you say? What kind of advice would you like to give the people?
I say to just do it, to absolutely just write.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's nothing anyone can do with an idea in your head. And you may be running scared, oh, this market is oversaturated or this,
Mm-hmm.
but no one can tell a story the way you can.
Right.
So, absolutely, if it's your dream to be a writer,
Mm-hmm.
then write.
Yeah.
Um, put it out there. Once you put it on paper, you can always pretty it up or make it better. But just carrying around that idea in your head is not helping. It's not helping you, and it's not helping anyone else. There's
Right.
someone that's meant to read the words that you're gonna put on paper,
I like that.
and so put them on paper, and
Yeah.
you'll find your place. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I like that. Because like
Yeah.
you said, nobody can read something that's in your head. You know,
No.
my testimony was, I heard a profound statement by Dr. Miles Monroe, and I don't know if he
Hmm.
coined the phrase or if he got it from somewhere else, but I always give him credit for it because he's the first person I heard say it when he was talking about some of the richest places in the world are not the diamond mines of Africa or not Fort Knox, but some of the richest places in the world are cemeteries. And I thought,
Mm,
cemeteries,
yes.
why would he say that? He said,
Yeah.
because in those cemeteries, you have books that will never be written and songs that will never be sung and maybe some inventions that will never be invented simply because people felt like they couldn't do it. They didn't
Right.
believe in themselves enough to put it out there. So that stuff just died along with them. And I thought,
Yeah.
wow, I don't want that to happen to me. So
And
I
yes.
got right to it. I started writing my books and I've been going ever since.
Right. And
Yeah.
I'll say this too. Um, Even in doing it, it doesn't mean that I'm not nervous or scared
Hmm.
or afraid.
Right.
I just learned to do things afraid.
Hmm.
You just push through that fear.
Right.
You just if you want things to happen with every book, even after I've published 18 books, with
Hmm.
every one that comes out, I'm terrified.
Yeah.
Are people gonna like me or
Hmm.
not like me, like the book?
Right.
Are they gonna like this story? Are they gonna have good things to say about it?
Hmm.
That's just all part of the process
Hmm.
for me.
Yeah.
And for most authors that I know, they feel the same way. Like,
Hmm.
but on the flip side of that, there is nothing that fills my soul more than pulling that book out of the box for the first time and seeing my name on the cover. There's
Absolutely.
nothing that compare to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was speaking at an event. I think it was one of our Toastmasters meeting we were having where we did our speeches, and I wrote a speech about how to leave a legacy. Everybody wants to leave a legacy when they
Hmm.
when they pass away. And my speech was about the best way I feel like you could leave a legacy is to write a book because
Hmm.
that book will be here long after you're gone. I mean,
Absolutely.
you think of people, I always use the example of, since I do children's books, I use the example of Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss is dead and gone, but we're still reading Dr. Seuss books. And that's what's going to happen with your books. That's what's going to happen with my books. People are going to be reading these long after we're gone. So it's a perfect way to leave a legacy and bless people long
Yes.
after you're gone. So I think it's just great what you do. Now, when it comes to the publishing side of it, now all of my books are self-published, but you mentioned all of these major publishing houses that you work with, and I think that's great. So you actually know both sides of it, and you've seen the ins and outs of all of it. Tell the people about how that system works.
Right. Well, a lot of the stuff that's mentioned in my bio is those are actually places that I have done editing for.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but my first three books were traditionally published.
Mm-hmm.
So I published BT Books had an imprint called Kamani True,
Mm-hmm.
which was for young adults. So all the books in the imprint were young adults,
Yeah.
and it was just a blessing to be able to do it. As far as being on both sides of the paper, yes, I've written for those publishers, I've edited for them, and I just totally forgot your question, Cedric. I'm sorry.
What I was just saying, tell people you've seen both sides, like the traditional publishing side and the
Hmm.
self-publishing side. You've seen
Right.
both of it. And I guess what I'm asking is tell the people how do you go about, well, first of all, let me go back to this dealing with rejection because so many people, one of the reasons why they won't do this or they're afraid to do this is because they're afraid of rejection. They don't like
Hmm.
rejection. I know when I started, I sent my book off my manuscript off to so many traditional publishers, and I have a stack of rejection notices this thick, but I
Yes.
kept going. So, how do you deal with, or did you get any rejection when you first started out?
I absolutely got rejection letters. Rejection is just part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just like there are different books for different people, there are
Mm-hmm.
different publishers for different authors.
Right.
So, I mean, just because you get a rejection letter doesn't mean that your book is not good. It doesn't
Right.
mean that it's not sellable. You just haven't connected with the right person
Mm-hmm.
or publisher yet.
Right.
So, it should absolutely not mean that you shouldn't keep going.
Mm-hmm.
You should. You just have to find your fit. Maybe
Right.
that fit for you is traditional publishing. Maybe it's self-publishing.
Mm-hmm.
So you can put your work out there yourself. Either one of them is fine. They both have their pros and cons,
Right.
but you absolutely should not let one person's opinion of you
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
keep you from doing something that you dream of.
Right.
And that's something that I tell my authors all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You gonna let this one person, you don't know what's going on. If you send in a romance novel to a romance publisher, that person may not like light-skinned men. So
Mm-hmm.
they reject your book.
Right.
You gonna let that keep you from your dream because of some person's, opinion?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely not.
Right. Right. So now in the 18 books you've written, I get this question all the time. Do you have a favorite?
Um, I think I have a few of them that are favorites for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I hear people say all the time, it's like asking who's your favorite child.
Yeah.
For me, I think the one that's nearest and dearest to my heart is probably my first book, Spin It Like That.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because it was the first time I ever saw my dream come true.
Mm.
And I realized, oh, like I can actually write a book
Yeah.
and not only write it, like it's been published through a traditional publisher. Like there were so many emotions that still come with
Yeah.
that book. Like I literally have sat down, written a book, and it's out there in the world for
Yeah.
others to enjoy.
Yeah. And to me, and I'm sure you get this too, it's a humbling experience
It is.
because I take every book sale as a compliment.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody has taken their hard-earned money and purchased something that I, through the grace of God, have created.
Yes,
I'm always humbled by that. It's a humbling experience. And
it
like you
is.
said, I'm always nervous when I first put it out. Even when it comes to speaking in front of an audience. I'm always nervous before I speak, but once I start talking, then hey, I'm just having a conversation. And that's
Right.
the way it goes. But if you're not nervous, then that means you're depending on yourself anyway. You need
Yes.
to be nervous. Being nervous means that you know you got to have the Holy Spirit guiding you through this anyway, and you need to lean on Him. So that is so, so awesome. Now tell us about one of your other books. You mentioned Spin It Like That. This one is called Secret Weapon. So
Yes.
what else do you have? And are they all geared towards your target audience? Is it always young adults?
It is not. I actually have written a few books for middle grade readers. I
Okay.
have probably the large bulk of them are for young adults, but
Mm-hmm.
I also have a few for the new adult age market, which is about ages 18 to 30.
Okay.
And I have a poetry book and a couple of journals as well.
Ah,
So,
yeah. So now
so
did
I
you?
try and I all my books, I mean, the characters are just gonna they're gonna be black. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, and that's just one of the main reasons is because growing up, I didn't see book covers with people who look like me. I didn't
Yeah.
see stories about things that my friends and I would do. So
Mm-hmm.
that's always very important. So I unapologetically
Mm-hmm.
write for, black people.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's great because it's needed.
Yeah,
If kids can't see it, then they can't be it. They,
right.
they they need to see that. And for you to put that out there for them, I think that's awesome. That is great because when a child or a young adult or whoever, when they see this and when they read this, then I'm pretty sure it touches their heart in a different way as opposed to, not that there's anything wrong with the other books, but when you can see yourself in this, that makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that stems from my childhood and me growing up and not, knowing that black people could write books and not
Hmm.
seeing myself in that space. And so that's kind of my way of paying tribute to that in
Hmm.
everything that I write.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and see, you mentioned not knowing that black people could write books. That always takes me back when I hear somebody say something like that. It takes me back to a time where I was volunteering at a local high school, and we were helping these kids prepare for the exit exam back when they had to do that. And from
mhm,
time to time, we would have these sessions where we would be talking to the young men, and this one particular day, we were talking about entrepreneurship, and we were using the example of a lawn care service. We were asking the boys, would you like to be the guy who mows the lawn, or would you rather be the guy who owns the lawn care service?
mhm.
And all of them said they would like to be the guy who mows the lawn, which there's nothing wrong with that. You're making an
Right.
honest living, and that's great. But we kept asking them, well, wouldn't you like to own it? And one kid, he raised his hand and he said, nobody ever told me I could.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that really just touched my heart to hear him
Yeah.
say that. And again, that's why it's so important that they see themselves in your books, in entrepreneurship or whatever. Even this is entrepreneurship because people, this is a business. That's
Yeah.
what this is.
Absolutely.
We are entrepreneurs. You are a business owner when you're an author, when you're a speaker. You actually own your own business. So
Yes.
it's up to you to get out here and make this thing work. Wouldn't you agree?
I absolutely agree. You know, one of the big things for me is if you're working for somebody else, and again, there's nothing wrong with that.
Hmm.
But for me personally, I always looked at it like I'm helping someone else fund their dream.
Yeah.
I'm putting money in their pocket.
Hmm.
The long hours of going to and from a job, creating all these ideas, doing all this stuff. That's time I can be investing into the dream that I have.
Right.
So that's become very important to me to
Hmm.
be able to do that, to
Yeah.
invest in my own dreams, to bet on myself.
Right.
Because no one else may not do it, but I'm absolutely gonna bet on myself, and I'm gonna figure it out and put it out there and see
Yeah.
what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. You hear that, people? Figure it out. Just go. Just
Yes,
like Nike says, just do it. Now, if
right.
I'm gonna bet on anybody, I'm gonna bet on me. That's why I'm not a gambler. I don't have anything against people who gamble. If that's your thing, that's fine. Yeah. but I love sports, and I have friends who bet on games all the time, and I don't want to bet on anything that I don't have any control over. So
Right.
I leave that alone. But I will bet on me. And that's what you're doing as an author and as a speaker. You are betting on yourself. You are getting out
Yes.
there and doing it. Well, hey,
And can I say this too? It
mm-hmm,
doesn't always mean that it's going to be easy. You
right,
know,
right,
it absolutely is not. There are
mm-hmm,
days where I'm like, what in the world am I doing? Like, have I lost my mind?
yeah,
But um it's just take it one step at a time. It doesn't mean that when you start, you have to have everything figured out.
mm-hmm,
Sometimes, I'm learning as I go and I'm figuring out and connecting with people. Cedric, you and I have been friends for years. We
mm-hmm,
connected like and kind of commiserated about it. It's not always easy, it's not always fun, but it's
right.
absolutely 100% worth it.
Worth it. It is
Yes.
definitely worth it. It is definitely worth it. And I'm sure it's been worth your time, ladies and gentlemen, listening to this podcast and watching this podcast. Miss Chandra, do you have any closing words of advice or closing words that you want to say? First of all, tell the people how they can get in touch with you, how they can get these books that you have and all that good stuff.
Well, thank you again for allowing me to come on today. Again, my name is Chandra Sparks Splond. You can find all my books on Amazon, and you can purchase them through my website as well, which is chandrasparksplond.com. That's ChandraSparksSplond.com. You'll find excerpts of all my novels on my website so you can get a little taste of them. And if I had one word or one last piece of closing advice, it would be for you to know that you are never too old or too young for your dreams to come true. I've again wanted to write books since I was 14. I was in my 30s before I actually sat down and wrote a book and published it.
Mm.
And that was 20 years ago. And I'm still in this game doing something I love. So again, you're never too old or never too young. You can do it.
You can absolutely do it, people. Well, hey, there you have it. Another great episode of the Well Said podcast, and everything she said was well said. That's why it's called the Well Said podcast. We're the
Love it.
podcast like no other, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, Chandra. I really appreciate it. I'm sure the audience appreciate it. And hey, go out there to her website. It's a beautiful website. I went on it and I looked at some stuff. It's great. She has some awesome material for people of all ages. You're really going to enjoy it. Thank all of you so much again for tuning in to the Well Said podcast. You know what I always tell you, make sure you like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you'll know when the other podcasts are coming out, other episodes, because I'm going to be talking to some great, great people. I'm sure you learned a lot today on this podcast, and I'm going to have her back because she has so much more information that we didn't even have time to get to. But hey, like, subscribe, do what you do, keep being great. Why? Because somebody's got to be great today. It might as well be you. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Well Said podcast. Tune in next time for another exciting and informative edition. If you need help on how to become an author or speaker, contact Cedric at cedric3.com. And thanks again for listening to the Well Said podcast.